The quiet suburban neighborhood had always been a haven for Eleanor, a grandmother who had devoted her life to her family. At 62, after losing her daughter Linda in a car accident years ago, Eleanor became the matriarch, raising her two granddaughters, Amanda and Maya. Amanda, in her early 30s, had married Richard, a man who appeared to be the perfect husband and brother-in-law. Maya, the youngest at 18, often visited their home, a place that had been a refuge for the family. Richard had always been charming, but beneath the surface something dark simmered. At first, Maya dismissed Richard's lingering glances and flirtations as harmless. After all, he was her brother-in-law. But his behavior grew increasingly invasive. His compliments became more inappropriate, and Maya, though unsure at first, began to feel uneasy. One afternoon, when Amanda was out, Richard cornered Maya in the kitchen. His intentions were unmistakable, and his words lecherous. Fear seized Maya as she tried to push him away, pleading for him to stop. But Richard, growing bolder, blocked her path, and Maya, desperate, fled to the bathroom. She locked the door behind her, trembling. In a panic, she recorded a voice message to Eleanor, explaining the horror she had endured. Before she could send it, Richard broke into the bathroom, and during a violent struggle, Maya slipped, falling and striking her head on the bathtub. She lay lifeless on the floor. Richard, in a panic, wrapped her body in a sheet, disposed of it in a secluded area, and concocted a story about Maya disappearing. When Amanda returned, he acted the concerned husband, even filing a missing persons report. Eleanor, volunteering at a shelter, didn't immediately check her phone. But later, hearing Maya's desperate voice, she knew the truth. Richard was responsible. Eleanor felt a deep, maternal ache for her lost granddaughter and vowed to bring justice herself. Determined, Eleanor visited Amanda's house and found faint bloodstains in the bathroom, a confirmation of her suspicions. She didn't go to the police, but instead began to plan her revenge. Days later, with Amanda out and Richard home early, Eleanor confronted him. He denied it all, but the guilt was written on his face. Before he could say more, Eleanor pulled a knife from her bag and, in a fit of righteous rage, stabbed him. He fell, blood spreading across the floor as Eleanor stood over him, trembling but resolute. She had avenged Maya. Eleanor then bought a cake, a symbol of justice, and recorded a live-stream confession on social media. She revealed the truth about Richard, Maya's death, and her actions. As her story spread, so did the horror and fascination of the public. The police arrived at her door, and without resistance, Eleanor was arrested. Amanda, shocked and devastated, learned the truth in a torrent of emotions. Her husband, the man she trusted, had betrayed her, and her grandmother had taken matters into her own hands. The grief, guilt, and anger consumed her. Eleanor's trial, a national spectacle, divided public opinion. Some saw her as a hero, others as a murderer. Eleanor's defense focused on her grief, the police's failure to act swiftly, and the psychological toll Richard's actions had taken on the family. The prosecution argued that she had no right to take the law into her own hands. The jury convicted Eleanor of manslaughter, acknowledging the emotional distress she had been under. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 5. Eleanor never expressed regret, stating simply, "I did what any mother or grandmother would do." Amanda, crushed by the loss of her sister, husband, and now her grandmother, struggled to find peace. She sought therapy, moved out of the house she had shared with Richard, and tried to rebuild her life. Maya's body was eventually found, allowing the family to give her a quiet funeral. In the years that followed, Amanda grappled with trust issues and the trauma of the past, while Eleanor, in prison, wrote letters to her, expressing no regret for her actions, only sorrow for the loss of Maya. The story of Eleanor's revenge became a cautionary tale for the community, a tragic reminder of the lengths a grandmother would go to for her family. When Amanda visited Eleanor in prison, the weight of the past remained heavy. The loss was too much to bear all at once, and she needed time to process. Maya's funeral provided a small measure of closure, but the scars of betrayal and loss ran deep. Amanda moved forward slowly, using painting as therapy, while Eleanor's case became a touchstone for debates on justice and vengeance. Eventually, Eleanor was released from prison, but the damage had already been done. For Amanda, the past would always remain part of her, though she continued to move forward, haunted by the shadow of the man who had destroyed her family.